Good afternoon. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Fort Worth. It's a beautiful day in Cowtown, and we're so glad to see everyone here. Please join me as Karen Derrick, Chief Development Officer of Community Hospice of Texas, leads us in the invocation, followed by Harriet Harrell, Principal of the Harrell Group, playing our national anthem. Karen?
Thank you. As we gather today in fellowship, we give thanks for the opportunity to serve, to strengthen our community, to lead with compassion, and to live out the Rotary ideal of service above self. We also pause to remember our neighbors in Central Texas, the loss of so many lives and how precious life is and how deeply we're connected as neighbors across this state. May our hearts remain open to those still grieving and suffering, and may our actions reflect the compassion that defines Rotary. Let us be guided by the four-way test, asking only not if our words are true, but if our work builds goodwill and benefits others. And today, may we continue to be a force for healing, hope, and service. Amen.
Thank you, Karen and Harriet. And here to welcome our guest is Joe Michaels, Executive Managing Principal of Solomon Bruce Consulting. Joe.
Thank you, Madam President. We are indeed fortunate to have several guests and visiting Rotarians with us today. Russell Spurlock came with Nick Drumbolt. Russ, stand up, please. You know, a Rotary meeting is never a Rotary meeting unless Jim Austin brings somebody from Jim Austin Online. And today we're fortunate enough to have Sharquise McAfee. Sharquise? That's me. Very good. Glad to have you. Jim Laugenslager brought Jimmy Shue. Jimmy? Ben Robertson brought his daughter, Caitlin Robertson. Caitlin? Rosemarie Badea, an immigration attorney who is a graduate of Texas A&M University School of Law and one of the finest immigration attorneys in the city of Fort Worth, was able to bring Linda Lopez. Linda? John Kirk played football at Texas A&M, is now in the roofing business, and with him today is Calvin Pennell. Calvin? Way over here. A Rotary Club meeting in Fort Worth is never as much fun until we have visiting Rotarians. And today we're fortunate to have President Randy Hendricks from the Arlington Club. Randy? We have Stacy Bridger from the Arlington Club as well. Stacy? All the way from our capital city in Austin, Amber Scarborough is visiting from the South Austin Club. Amber? Patrick Harrison also comes from Austin, but he's with the Cosmopolitan Club. Patrick? Madam President, those are our visiting Rotarians and guests.
Thank you, Dr. Mike. I know that many of you are looking forward to tomorrow's public image workshop, and that's going to be led by our friends Randy and Amber, and also co-sponsored by the Arlington Club, and Stacy, we're very appreciative of that. We like to begin our meetings here in Fort Worth with the four-way test, a reminder of how we approach the things we say and do. Please join me. Number 1, is it the truth? 2, is it fair to all concerned? 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you very much. And now another tradition of this club is the newscast, where we temporarily set aside that beloved four-way test. Here to give us his version of this week's news is past President Fernando Costa. Take it away, Fernando.
I feel about as welcome as an ICE agent at a quinceañera. But this isn't about my feelings. It's about the news of the week. So here we go. In business news, grocery chain Trader Joe's has announced that it will soon be opening 30 new stores, as well as 15 more parking spaces. The data ops firm Astronomer announced just yesterday that Human Resources Director Kristen Cabot has followed the example of CEO Andy Byron by resigning after the separately married executives appeared together on the kiss cam at a recent Coldplay concert. The company says that it's moving beyond the scandal by rebranding the HR position as Chief of Internal Affairs. Coldplay, meanwhile, is more popular than ever. They had not released a single in years, but now appear to have produced 4 in one night. The CEO of messaging app Telegram, Pavel Durov, confirmed this week that he's leaving his entire $14 billion fortune to his 6 children from 3 different partners and more than 100 children that he's conceived by artificial means. Pundits are calling him a role model because, unlike Elon Musk, Durov is one billionaire who knows how many children he has. Speaking of Elon, the Tesla CEO showed up at a news conference recently saying that his 5-year-old son had given him a black eye. Sources say it's the first time one of his children has made contact. In lifestyle news, a study by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics has found that men are spending a record high average of 100 minutes per day doing household work, such as cooking and cleaning. That's right, and women are spending 200 minutes redoing it correctly. In New York's Adirondack Mountains, park rangers recently rescued 2 hikers after they had called 911 to report that their friend had died on the hike. As it turns out, the hikers had been consuming hallucinogenic mushrooms, and there was no third hiker. The hikers reportedly didn't even have a cell phone, but had borrowed one from a talking bear. Authorities in Stratford, Ontario, have captured 4 robbers who had held up an adult store for $8,000 in cash and merchandise, including leather clothing, whips, and chains. And here's an interesting twist: as punishment, they won't be punished. And the inventor of the heat index Dr. Sonny McHumid, has died. He was 95, but he felt like 105. On the culinary front, fast food chain Bojangles has announced a new breakfast burrito featuring sausage, eggs, potatoes, cheese, and Southern-style sausage gravy. Wow. Not to be outdone, Raising Cane's is offering its diners a loaded gun. KFC has launched a new drink called Peaches and Cream Sweet Lightning, which features Mountain Dew Sweet Lightning Soda with vanilla cream. And this is cool, it's based upon Dr. Kevorkian's original recipe. And in the UK this summer, KFC has been test marketing another new product called Gravy Gelato. Yes, that's Italian ice cream flavored with KFC's own gravy, featuring rich notes of peppercorn and chicken. British demand for the product has far exceeded the company's expectations. And our fellow Rotarian, Josh Friend, is not here today because he took the next flight back to London yesterday when I mentioned the story to him. So now we know why the American colonists fought so hard for independence. In sports, a composite of 11 college football preseason publications ranks the Texas Longhorns as number 1. 5 Big 12 teams appear in the consensus top 25, including Texas Tech at number 22, while TCU and Baylor each appears in the top 25 of at least one poll. Texas A&M does not rank high in football so far this year, but they always take pride in deer hunting. It seems that 2 Aggies had bagged a 16-point buck and were dragging it by the rear legs back to their truck, but the antlers kept getting stuck in the mud. One says to the other, "This is tough, but we only have about a mile left to reach the truck." A third hunter happens to see their dilemma and tells them, "Look, if you drag the deer the other way, the antlers won't stick in the mud." So the Aggies give it a try, and it works. The first Aggie says, "That hunter was right. This way is a lot easier." The second Aggie says, "It sure is, but now we're 2 miles from the truck." The weather for this weekend should be mostly sunny and humid, with high temps around 95 and the heat index around 105. Regardless of the forecast, may the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and rains fall soft upon your fields. Until we meet again, may the good Lord hold you in the palm of his hand. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Fernando. He never fails us on the newscast. And now to present several grants to community organizations is past President Larry Anfin. Larry, and while Larry makes his way to the stage, for those of you receiving grants, please stay on the stage so we can get a photo when all have been presented.
That means you can come up here like right now, yeah. Yeah, Fernando rocks on the newscast too. Today's first grant for $4,000 goes to Building Pathways, Inc. The grant will fund supplemental support to outfit participants with necessary safety gear sites. Accepting the check for the organization is Shauna Saldana. Today's second grant for $5,000 goes to One Safe Place. The grant towards the preparation for and during Camp Hope. Accepting the check for this organization is Felipe Gutierrez. And today's third grant for $5,000 goes to Gill's Children's Services. The grant will fund treatments and birth certificates. Accepting the check for this organization is Alice Espinoza. I'd like to thank all these great organizations for all they do for our community. As a reminder to our club, we make these grants through your generous support of membership. So please consider making the grants possible by the QR code there to make it easy for you. And thank you very much.
Congratulations to these fine organizations. We are very proud to support your work. We now have a first reading of a proposed member. Making that presentation today is Harriet Harrell, who is stepping in for Secretary Karen Telshaw Johnson today. Harriet, thanks for doing double duty.
We have one first reading today. The proposed member is Kippen Albachu. That's such a wonderful name to say. Kippen Albachu. His title is President and CEO of the Fort Worth Sister Cities International. Classification is not-for-profit, and his proposer is past President Carlo Capua. If no written objections are received in the Rotary office by August 1st, this proposal will be given a reading and voted on by the club.
Thank you, Harriet. Just a reminder that if you know of someone who would be a good Rotarian, please invite them to one of our meetings. Deanna Stewart and Rebecca Montgomery are chairing the Membership Recruitment Committee this year, and they would be happy to visit with any potential members. Being part of Rotary is more than just being a member of the club. It's meeting new friends and colleagues, hearing wonderful programs like the one we have today, and especially it's an opportunity to make a difference in our community through giving service. So make a point to invite someone to a Rotary meeting soon. And now, Polly, is Polly here? It's my honor to present a blue badge to one of our newest members, Polly Russell. Polly has completed 6 acts of service to earn his blue badge. How long did that take you, Polly?
A minute.
About a minute. See, it was easy. And your favorite act of service?
Yeah, being a greeter, just getting to know the kindness and generous hospitality of everybody here.
Well, we are very proud to present you with not that, but this blue badge.
Yeah.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thanks so much.
We're glad you're here. And now we get to introduce another new member. Here to do that is Derek Moffitt of Moffitt Financial Services.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's my honor to introduce you to a friend and colleague, Mr. Ryan Sherrar. Ryan and I officed together in the South Side a few years ago, and I was a little bit intimidated when I first met him because he has a long list of letters behind his name. He is an MBA, he is a JD, he is a CPA, an XYZ, a DEF, all kinds of things. But I quickly found out he is one of the friendliest, warmest, down-to-earth people that I've met, and it's a pleasure for me to call him a friend. Ryan works with his dad at an FCA Corp. It's a wealth management firm based out in Houston, been around for over 40 years. And with Ryan joining our club, he will be the second best financial advisor in the club, behind Bill Fairley. Thank you so much. Let me introduce you to Ryan Sherrar.
Thank you, Derek, for the kind introduction, and it's a pleasure to be with you all today. I'll just keep this brief. My wife and I moved here in 2009 after graduating from law school. Fast forward 15 years, we have 3 beautiful kids. We have the opportunity to be a part of the vibrant near South Side community in Fort Worth, and we have been since we moved here originally. Cade Lovelace, I don't know if he's here today, but he's a fellow Rotarian, fellow attorney, introduced me to Derek, and Derek officed with us for several years and made a great friendship out of that. During the time, over the better part of the last decade, I was practicing as an attorney. Over the half of that time for myself, after having worked for 2 Tarrant County law firms, and had the opportunity 5 years ago to become the succession plan for my dad's wealth management firm that's been in business for actually 50 years now, Derek. So we're proud to be able to carry on that legacy of a small family-owned business. My sister also carries on that legacy. My dad likes to say that there's only one Sherrar that has a real job, and that's my brother, Commander Tyler Sherrar, who's commander of a Seabee battalion in Gulfport, Mississippi. So we're proud of him, and he's actually now what's called Captain Select. So while I've never served myself, we're proud to be able to support him in his military career. Today, I just wanted to highlight one quick thing in acknowledgement for Derek. So one of the interesting things about our wealth management firm is that we have a series of international investment opportunities. And so Dad started over 30 years ago investing in Africa. And so we have one of the longest running American-based African investment firms that we're aware of anywhere. And so through that investment initiative, we have banking, insurance, hotel and hospitality assets, oil and gas. So it's a widely diversified fund. But years ago, I was traveling in a gift shop. When I realized I thought I'd like to join Rotary, I was able to pick up a postcard of the club's founder commemorating his 50-year anniversary post-mortem. So Paul Harris, the founder of the Rotary organization, with a couple commemorative stamps, one with a leopard, one with a map, and one with an eagle from the Rotary Club in Malawi. And so I've been in Malawi, an interesting fact, over 50 times. My dad's been there 150 times. So we're very active, going several times a year. So I was able to secure this beautiful little Rotary Club placard or flag. And so I'll try to do the same thing and pay it forward and be a participant of the broader international programs that Rotary does. So I'm thrilled to be here. Service over self resonates with me. And so I'm thankful for the opportunity and look forward to getting to know you all and get involved in the club. Thank you.
Membership certificate and badge, and we're glad you're here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Next, we have our chairperson of the day, Mr. Tom Williams, who is a partner with Haynes & Boone, and Tom has arranged to have not one but 2 representatives from the Big 12 join us today, one of whom might look a little bit like Tom. So Tom, take it away.
Thank you, President Ann. From the applause, you might think I'm doing the newscast, but I'm not today. But what I am here today to remind you of, for those of you who have been fans and followers of college athletics for many, many years, you might remember when you thought the Southwest Conference was going to last forever. You might remember when the Big Ten had 10 schools. And you might remember when a school could get in trouble if a booster hired a football player to deliver pizzas and then never quite got around to making him actually deliver the pizzas. Well, those days are long gone and they're not coming back. And instead now we talk about NIL, we talk about revenue sharing, we talk about paying players, which we can now do with the PayPal app. We talk about all kinds of things that in the not too distant past we would have thought inconceivable. But to help us navigate this brave new world, we have here Tyrell Kirkham, and Tyrell and Clark, y'all start coming on up. Tyrell, since 2022, has been the Chief Brand and Business Officer of the Big 12 Athletic Conference, where he oversees the conference's marketing, branding, and commercial revenue ventures for the entire conference. Before he came to the Big 12, he was the Vice President of Brand and Market Strategy at the Detroit Pistons. And before that, he worked for the Los Angeles Rams, the Brooklyn Nets, and the New York Mets. So he worked for the Nets and the Mets, but not the Jets. And he is a graduate of State University of New York. To help Tyrell help us, we also have up here Clark Williams, who has also been at the Big 12 since 2022, also came from the Detroit Pistons at the same time. Clark is Vice President of Communications and Strategy at the Pistons, where he oversees the league's communications programs. Before coming to the Big 12, as I said, he was with the Detroit Pistons, and prior to that, he was the Director of Sports at Burke Communications in New York City. He is a graduate of the University of Missouri, and yes, he is a native of Fort Worth. So with no further ado, I will turn it over to Clark and Tyrell.
Well, pardon me. I think Tom undersold it. I'm not just a native of Fort Worth, but I'm a native of his address. I am about 2 doors down from him, growing up ages 0 through 18. So I'm a Rotary Club Nepo baby. Both my father and my grandfather were a member of this club. So I roped Tyrell into joining me here today out of guilt and familial enticement. But I think as Tom mentioned, college athletics is in a wildly different place than what everyone remembers, probably 5 years ago even. And every year we have introduced new endeavors that flip the industry upside down. With that, you have a lot of individuals like myself and like Tyrell who have come from the professional sports ranks because of the opportunity to, contemporize, modernize, and, somewhat professionalize college athletics. So, that's kind of the general theme we wanted to touch on today. Obviously, I think everyone kind of knows the history of college athletics. Everyone has a special place for college athletics in their heart from their times from 18 to 22, or the super seniors, 23 and 24. But, it's a really exciting time for college athletics, and I think individuals like Tyrell are really at the forefront of it. As his background shows, Tyrell is all things marketing and brand building. He's recently promoted to our chief business officer, and a lot of what he does is everything external facing our conference, right? So the first thing I want Tyrell to touch on, and kind of going back to the original point, is this is our 30th year of being a conference, and what it looked like in 1996 is very different than what it looks like now. 16 teams across the country, a lot of schools that people thought of as original members no longer here, a lot of schools that were originally in different conferences are now here. So, Tyrell, just touch on, what makes this iteration of the Big 12 so different than our past versions, whether it was the 1996 version or the 2010s?
Yeah, first and foremost, thank you for having me. Excited to engage in this discussion today. I'm well-versed in the professional space, so coming into collegiate athletics, having grown up in the Northeast, I was far removed. I knew enough to be dangerous, but certainly have immersed myself since arriving 3 years ago. And in that fact-finding, understanding that we used to be in 5 states with a very small footprint in 2 time zones. Now, fast forward to present day, where we're in 4 time zones, 10 states, 90 million people in our footprint. That alone, thinking about being in the core of the heartland and now branching out and having institutions in big markets like Orlando and Cincinnati, bringing Houston in is another big market, though despite still being in the heartland, heading out west and having Colorado and BYU and Arizona State and Utah. It just, the scope and magnitude of the conference, I often joke, our games start at 11 a.m. on a Saturday, and oftentimes we're not going to bed till 2 a.m. So it just shows you the sort of vast exposure that we're afforded. In addition to just geographically, the opportunity to focus on brand. In this new day and age, brands truly matter. And the conferences that are at the forefront of ensuring that their brand is cemented in the mind of consumers, of fans, are the ones that are going to rise to the top. And that's primarily been my focus since arriving, to ensure that the Big 12 is top of mind in everything that you do. Very judicious in our approach to ensure that our existing core audience maintains their place in our ecosystem, but equally as much of how we're looking at bringing new audiences into the funnel. It's really important that we continue to bring in the next generation of Big 12 fans, and sometimes it may not come in just the football game. You have to find other means to captivate them. And, you know, the autonomy we've been given by our board, by our commissioner, who I have a longstanding relationship with. He was the CEO at the Brooklyn Nets when I worked there, and I had a couple stops in between where I was fortunate enough to meet Clark. I wasn't 2 doors down, but I feel like it's been 2 doors down. And he has given us the keys and the license to truly come in and disrupt and prioritize brand. And as a result, I think you've seen the conference continue to find their way in the headlines for good, bad, and indifferent, but most oftenly good, just by that creative liberty and freedom to really push the boundaries, to put the Big 12 on the map.
Yeah, and you know, the most recent wave of expansion that led to Texas and OU going to the SEC, and Arizona State and Colorado and Utah and Arizona joining the Big 12, and Oregon and Washington to the Big 10, and pretty much the demise of the Pac-12, all of those, you know, historically, these realignment moments have been built around media partnerships renewals. I don't think there's any industry in sports that's more reliant in terms of economics around their media rights and media partnerships. You know, and come 2030, when a lot of our conferences are at renewal rights again, you know, who knows what'll happen at that moment. You know, I thought maybe it'd be great if you could kind of touch on, or maybe expand on, just how important our media partners are for our business, how important, you know, TV, and how important, you know, having our own storytelling platforms is for a conference in college athletics today.
Yeah, for starters, I think it's important to note, we're a nonprofit. 90% of what we generate as a conference gets distributed to our membership. So we are on the hot seat daily to find ways to create, drive incremental revenue. But the one linchpin within that is our media deal. It counts for over 60% of what we generate yearly, and it's a fixed cost, but it's you know, fixed income. But we have to look at it as our storytelling engine. It's not just a source of revenue. And what we've been able to do is really diversify our portfolio with respect to our media partners. So ESPN and Fox have longstanding relationships with the conference. When you think about the SEC, it's exclusively ESPN. You think about the Big Ten, it's exclusively Fox. We pride ourselves in having our audiences be able to consume on different platforms and affording different voices to share the gospel of the Big 12. Beyond that, we've sub-licensed out to other parties as well. So we have a long-standing relationship with CBS on men's basketball front. This year, we're going to bring NBC into the fold for men's basketball, and then TNT/WBD, Warner Brothers Discovery, is coming in as a sub-licensee to carry both football and men's basketball. So we've really and intentionally brought more partners into the fold, in hopes of, in 2030, that, you know, as Brett often alludes to, if they like us now, they'll love us in 2030. And it gives us a chance to see who's working the hardest for us, who's willing to go to bat. Within the media landscape, as much as it is commercial, it's about your narrative. And we are able to captivate an audience for 3 hours during a broadcast, and it's imperative that the right stories are being told, whether that's production value, whether that's unlocking an amazing story about a student athlete. Our partners need to do their due diligence to ensure that our narrative is positioned the right way. And, you know, we hear stories from our institutions. When ESPN Game Day came to Kansas a couple years ago, not only did it drive a ton of economical impact for all the extra people that were in town, but it also served as a catalyst for increased enrollment, because you got a chance to put Kansas football on a national stage where those students who were sitting at home saw how much fun, you know, appeared to be fun on campus that day, and it drove massive traffic to their enrollment page. So our broadcast partners provide a tremendous amount of value, not only for the conference, but each of our institutions, our student athletes, our alumni base, and the corresponding communities, which, if you think about the range that I mentioned earlier, Cincinnati, Houston, Salt Lake City, we have some big markets, but to shed light on Stillwater, to shed light on Morgantown, West Virginia, or Lawrence, Kansas, goes a really long way for these brands that sometimes don't get the light that they deserve.
Yeah, and one thing to add to that too is, our commissioner and often refers to college athletics as the front porch of our universities. It's great to win championships and it's great to have, exposure for, your star quarterback, but, universities, especially at these magnitudes, are businesses, right? And college athletics serves as a massive, massive marketing arm for that business. I use University of Colorado, when they hired a local celebrity by the name of Deion Sanders as their head coach, the numbers that they saw, not just in terms of increase in attendance, in terms of increase in team merchandise sold, but the increase in diverse student body applications, the increase in enrollment as a whole, the increase in brand awareness, the increase in website engagement, all of these different things. I mean, I don't know about everyone in this room, but I had no interest in understanding what the sociology professor was like when I applied to college. I was using what the AP poll was as my guide for where I was buying. And, fortunately, Mizzou had a good year that year. I just think these universities more than ever are recognizing this new era we're in, where we're sharing revenue with our student athletes. And I think everyone is going to see an enhanced commitment, not just from athletic directors and donors, but from university presidents and board of regents as we move forward. And, kind of on that moving forward, this big change, or this most recent big change, I should say, that led to revenue sharing was the settlement between the House versus NCAA case. This has obviously led to revenue share. We have a cap of paying student athletes what is $20.5 million annually. Cap will increase by 4% each year, and then it will be revisited at a certain juncture. Part of that is opening this gateway to what a lot of people say, professionalization of sports. And they may mean it in a cynical way, they may mean it in an optimistic way. Tyrell has worked for what feels like every professional sports team ever. I'm curious what your thoughts are on what elements or tactics that professional sports uses do you think most readily need to be implemented across college athletics?
Well, I'll just start with college athletics. There is a tradition that exists within college athletics that needs to remain pure and intact, and we try on a daily basis to ensure that that remains true. With that said, as the world evolves, we need to keep up with the times. I think NIL, we've been very receptive of it within the Big 12 Conference, assuming it's done correctly, that there's no cap circumvention or, faulty third-party NIL, and assuming all of that remains in place, then ensure that it plays out on the field and student athletes get a chance to leverage their brand. I think having come from the sports space with a plethora of knowledge with respect to collective bargaining and salary caps and endorsement deals and ensuring that value is optimized, I think some of that will transition nicely into the collegiate space. I think our student athletes are starting to understand their worth, what they're doing, not only from a commercial perspective, but how they're mimicking what you see in the professional space, where they're getting more involved philanthropically earlier in their careers. They're understanding financial literacy, setting up trust in advance. And those are some of the resources that we're providing. If you look at our most recent deal with PayPal, which is a landmark deal, I talk about our 60% of our revenue coming from our media rights. What we just did with PayPal 2 weeks ago was the largest commercial deal in the history of collegiate athletics. And again, that money will get distributed to our institutions, which will ultimately be rerouted to our student athletes. But with that deal came a financial literacy program. It came with the ability for us to pay through PayPal's hyperwallet solution. It gave student athletes an opportunity to have an endorsement deal. So we started with 3, one of which is Olivia Miles from TCU, as well as Sam Levitt from Arizona State and Najee Kennedy from Texas Tech softball, we're now giving them a platform to thrive. And I think the professional leagues have always done that. And the empowerment that I'm seeing within our student athletes, we just got back from a Beyond Borders tour with several of our SAC members and conference staff. And to see these young professionals, 18, 19 years old, and the way they carry themselves in these environments, we're just trying to set them up for success for life after playing days are over. And I think what the professional model has given us the blueprint to do is, like, we know all the things not to do and how we watch out for, exorbitant contracts and how we can manage this, I think, much more efficiently. And there's going to be some kinks in the road along the way, but I think there's a lot to borrow from, and bringing in a nice mix of outside influence within the conference staff, Clark and myself included, as well as the commissioner, who comes from a more commercially and professionally driven background, and mixing that with folks from academia and other members of our staff who have had a ton of experience at the conference and on campus, really sets us up for success to be able to tackle the current challenges that collegiate athletics face, and welcome them with open arms and come with viable solutions that make sense. And we're embracing this next chapter head on and looking forward to all that lies ahead.
Great, and I think, one thing, then, and maybe I should have started with this, but I think a lot of people probably don't realize what a conference does on a day-to-day basis in terms of staff. Obviously, executing and overseeing and facilitating a media rights, media partnership is a massive part. But, when I first took this role, or was exploring this role from my time at the Pistons, a lot of people said, conference office jobs have been a little country club-like. People go in at 10, they leave at 3, they're on the golf course by 3:15. And they said it was sleepy. And our boss, Commissioner Yormark, is the opposite of, he's the type to text us at 4 a.m. with the results of his Peloton workout. So it's not in his DNA whatsoever. And I think in the last 3 or 4 years, we've done a really good job, candidly, of making this a job. Maybe that's harsh to those who have been there for 20, 25 years before, but we work day in and day out. I'm not sure that was always the case. One thing I thought it would be great for you to touch on is just kind of the role conference plays in terms of our school's biggest moments. We can start obviously with TCU and their national championship run, which happened in our first year. But kind of what your vertical and plays a role in, and obviously in the conference itself, in those major moments.
For starters, Clark has, how old is Mac now? A year? 11 months. Okay, so he has 11-month-old. I have 2 children. One turned 2 in April. The other is 7 months yesterday. Before I had kids, I had 16 children that I loved equally, called Big 12 institutions. So more often than not, it's our job to celebrate and showcase our institutions in an equal capacity. Right now, for football, everyone's a paper champion, and we're thrilled about that. But when rubber meets the road and you have to, follow an institution because they're on a run, i.e. TCU a couple years ago in their great run to the finals, we really get a chance to double down, to be an extension of their internal team. And we do this every single day, but it's certainly amplified during those bigger moments. So to be able to travel with them to the Fiesta Bowl and out in Arizona and activate within those markets, engage with their alumni groups, ensure that we're doing our part in Fort Worth and DFW area as a whole, to ensure, whether it's billboards or activating at different locations to support them. We just coming off the heels of Houston being in the finals of the NCAA tournament. We were down there in Houston. We have folks at all the regional games just to lend support, to serve as an additional resource. Our staffs on campus are stretched. We sponsor 25 sports at the Big 12 Conference, 15 of which are women's athletics. So for every conversation we have about football, or we have about men's and women's basketball, there's a rowing regatta that's taking place, there's an equestrian match, there's a women's soccer and softball and baseball, and the list goes on and on and on. And for each of those instances, we support our institutions at different levels. But the through line is we support them, and it's important that they see us, that we, every week we're on a different campus. Sometimes football obviously consumes a lot of the fall, but we'll package up soccer and volleyball and cross-country in between there as well. And I think to Clark's point earlier, it's not to knock the previous regime. It was just more of, I don't think they understood what, not understood, but the value they provided was more, and I'm going to make sure you have officiating crews, hopefully they make the right calls. We're going to make sure that your distributions get paid out on time, and it stopped there. It was a bit more surface level in nature. And because of the man at the helm, Brett Yormark, we've come in and completely reinvented it. And now we're looking at, okay, how do we use licensing? The money that we just received off of the new college football game this year superseded anyone's expectations from a licensing side of the house. And you think about the PayPals of the world, like that's our job, is to figure out ways to support and reinvent and refine some of the things that were already in place. And we've done that not only for our institutions, for our student athletes, for the fan experience. Clark talks about, we bring music and culture into what we do, to take our football championship and still have the bands perform at halftime, but give a major artist the opportunity to join in and create an amazing experience for those tuning in at home, those experiencing it live at AT&T, and for those band members, 700 between the two institutions, to be a part of that experience. It's just a small sort of anecdote of how we're looking at creating impact across every part of the ecosystem.
And I'll do one more question before we open up to the larger group for questions. There's a lot of cynicism about college athletics at times. Earlier, I guess that was yesterday, the White House even issued an executive order that was titled Saving College Sports. So there is a feeling of constant existential crisis in this industry. And I kind of wanted to flip that and hear your opinion on what you're most optimistic about in terms of college athletics. What is your kind of one or two things that makes you feel like this industry is heading in the right way?
And the excitement. Saturday is bigger than Sundays at this point. The fanfare, as much cynicism and conversation and chatter around the current state of collegiate athletics, it hasn't deterred anybody from watching on Saturdays. I see the ratings every Sunday and Monday morning, and they just continue to increase year over year. I'm very optimistic about that, because what that affords us, you think about media partners and creating great experience for you watching at home, and or our institutions who are putting on a great show. And it's not just about us, this is about everyone that makes up, if it's D3 to D1, we're providing a sense of relief for 3 hours and providing that meaningful entertainment value. And to know that, our broadcasters can bring you under the hood for 3 hours to give you a good sense of what Big 12 football or a basketball game or a soccer match is all about, gets me excited and allows me to continue to fuel my creativity, to push not only internally, but push all of our external partners. And then the other piece of it, we're in a capitalistic society. So I think the commercial growth of collegiate athletics is in exciting times. It's no longer just bumper sticker partnerships, as I alluded to earlier with respect to PayPal. The fact that we have a fully integrated approach that gives our student athletes a platform to monetize their name, image, and likeness, that there's a value, there's a debit card that's going to be available for fans of the conference and those institutions, to a bunch of community integrations that are all folded into that partnership. So on the surface, it says kids are getting paid, but you lose sight of all the other things that are part of this unlock that are truly benefiting the communities, those student athletes, their families, and the institutions as a whole. And, we're going to embrace all of these challenges. I look at them as truly opportunities, and maybe I haven't been close enough to it, so there's no emotional feeling of like, this is the way it used to be. This is the way it is now. Let's embrace it and tackle the challenge ahead.
That's great. I think that's a nice segue to open it up to questions. I don't know the usual question format, but if you just want to raise your hand, I'll call on you. One thing I do like to ask the groups is if you can let me know what university you support the most. This is free market research for me, so I'm going to mooch off you guys for a little bit. I got to get something out of this. besides brownie points with my father. We'll start with you in the back in the glasses.
I'm graduated the University of Kansas, but my kids went to UT, so there you go.
Kansas is great.
I hear you. I'm speaking as an Irish core Kansas basketball fan, as you can imagine.
Sure.
I hear you say the popularity is there, but as a fan, and the way the teams have to be reformed every year now, and everything that's going on around it, I'm seriously reevaluating how much I want to watch. But I love the Kansas jail. So I guess I'm leaning into the existential threat.
You want to talk transfer portal? I'll briefly, I'll talk about it from a nuts and bolts standpoint. I think each of our commissioners of the Power Four being the SEC, the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Big 12, also known as the Autonomous Four that operate with, as you'd expect, some autonomy. We have publicly said we want to remedy some of the issues that the transfer portal creates. I think each of our commissioners recognize that it's not ideal for fans and student athletes and coaches and administrators to have rosters that are ever changing. I don't think anyone asked for unlimited free agency. That being said, I do think there's certainly two sides to it. I think you can always make an argument that it affords student athletes opportunities that they maybe wouldn't have gotten. I won't use a basketball example, but I'll use a football example. Cam Scatterby was the running back for Arizona State who played in a Peach Bowl against Texas where they narrowly lost to Texas in double overtime, thanks to some officiating help. Cam came from a D1AA program that wasn't on anyone's radar. No one in this room would know who they play, what their mascot is, or what Sacramento State coaching staff, anything looks like. With the transfer portal and the ability to transfer without having to redshirt for a year, he was able to go to Arizona State, a prominent program, and play under a great coach with a great quarterback. Became a household name, especially with his play in the postseason, the Big 12 championship, and the Peach Bowl, and now he's playing for the New York Giants with, 1 million social followers, brand deals, and opportunity. Cam Ward from Miami, a non-Big 12 example, played at Incarnate Word down in San Antonio, and he transferred to University of Miami, and he became the #1 overall pick, and now he's QB1 for the Tennessee Titans. So we certainly, I think as an industry, want to, wrap our arms around that. But I do think, not to be contrarian, because I agree, I do worry about the fan element the most, but I do think there is a lot of value and opportunity for student athletes themselves to, recruiting's tough. If you're not labeled a certain star, you maybe don't have the opportunity, and through the transfer portal, you are able to work your way into a program that really elevates you to maybe the professional status, or maybe you just become a household name, get a couple million in NIL, and start your own business to become a member of the Fort Worth Rotary Club.
And I'll just add, I think some of the conversations that are taking place around retention and what the House settlement will afford us is the ability to take a student athlete and say, hey, you want to be paid $1 million a year? Well, we're going to do a 3-year contract. We're going to do a 2-year contract to hopefully keep them around a little longer. I think that's evidenced by this year's NBA draft, more so than ever. I think it was down 40% of entrants into the draft, and that's because they realize, why would I go take a second-round pick and travel around on a coach bus from city to city when I could stick around where I love, give first-class accommodations, and get paid in the process. So I hope that will quell and mitigate some of the challenges we've dealt with to date.
Next question. Start with you right there.
So first, for your market research, I'm the proud father of 2 graduates of Texas Tech.
Okay, there we go.
One that was in 4 years, one that was able to pack a 4-year degree into 6.5 years.
I appreciate the efficiency. Don't ask my father how many years I did. Yeah.
So with the state of college athletics that we talked about, and the musical chairs, if you will, of member institutions, each with their own brands,
what are the challenges of balancing that with the brand and the consistency of the brand of the Big 12?
Take that.
So I talked about 10 states, 4 time zones. I'll distill it down one step further. We have two religious institutions, between BYU and Baylor. We have private, public. So just that as a whole to start a conversation, oftentimes, like BYU can't play on Sundays. And that's part of their brand, and we understand that. But the dynamic of things that we're trying to do at the conference sometimes puts us in a box because, you know what, ESPN likes that Sunday afternoon window. And if AJ DeBanza, who's going to be the #1 pick, at 3 o'clock or noon on a Sunday, that's difficult to do. But we're cognizant of that, and we've tried to be very deliberate in our approach to say, all right, we understand there's going to be challenges with each brand, but where are those through lines? Where's the common denominators that we can utilize the strength in numbers to make this work? And, we've asked our institutions, because I think a lot of them, no fault of theirs, is, it was sort of, it's always been great, right? Kansas basketball is always a top blue blood basketball brand. But now, with the advent of NIL, you have other institutions that now can say, you know what, that top recruit that is going to go to Kansas and maybe be the 7th or 8th man, and they wanted to play for Bill Self, which hopefully we're wishing him a speedy recovery. Bill Self will get me into the NBA, so I'm willing to sit on the bench for 2 years and wait it out. Now, there's the instant nature of me being able to go and go to a smaller D1 program where I'm going to get the attention and utilize all the exposure, NIL, social media, and we're trying to just reel that in to say, hey, we're going to help you build your brand. We're going to build the conference's brand. There's strength in numbers, and we reiterate that. You guys should want to beat each other on a daily basis on the field, but when we get in the AD rooms, when we're in a room full of presidents, we need to be thinking about what's best for the Big 12 conference. And because we positioned our brand, and it's it's not a jab at the Pac-12, but we could have very well been in that seat. There would be no Autonomy 5. We were vying for the same media rights dollars. And we positioned our brand better and won. That was because we had a willingness from all of our institutions to do their part to show how we work in unison to make sure that scheduling optimization was in place so that ESPN and Fox could leverage that. And I think that's the beauty of what we get to do every day, educate and hopefully guide our institutions to understanding that you build brand to build business, and with that, hopefully provides a level of sustained success for everybody to still be their own individual brands, but understand the value of what the collective brings.
Do we have time for one more? Okay, one more. Who's going to bring us home? Oh. Okay, there we go. Love it.
Have any Big 12 schools done away with non-profit generating sports because of NIL?
The only Olympic sport we have lost since the advent of settlement has been one program, and it was the Utah Utes beach volleyball program. So all that's to say, by the way, you are in the home of the national champions of beach volleyball. So I hope you know that you are in the apex of beach volleyball. But all of our ADs, all of our presidents, all of our institutions have both publicly and internally expressed a real desire to maintain all of our Olympic sports. We don't want to cut sports. We want to create opportunities for student athletes, even if they aren't getting the millions and they're getting, 2,500. They still get a scholarship. They still get a great experience. They still get educational benefits. They still get enrichment. So we've made that a priority from a league to maintain our sports in this time of, sometimes we're pinching our pennies a little bit, but that continues to be a priority to continue.
Yeah, I'll just add, knowing that scheduling and trying to limit the amount of pressure and travel. Think about someone going from Colorado to West Virginia on a weeknight and having to get back to school. So we've been much more strategic with our scheduling and cut down costs there that will allow us to still sponsor all the sports. It's very important. Wrestling to Oklahoma State and Iowa State, or track and field to Baylor or Texas Tech, we can't lose sight of what those sports mean, especially, think about the heightened awareness around the Olympics coming to LA. we were not in a position, nor will we be in the future, to start cutting sports and losing out on what that national and global visibility provides us.
Thank you so much, Terrell and Clark. The Rotary Club of Fort Worth is pleased to make a contribution to Rotary's Polio Plus Fund in recognition of your presentation. Please come back and see us again, and good luck to all of the Big 12, but especially the Horned Frog. And speaking of sports, we had a really nice turnout for the Ranger game on Tuesday, and appreciate the work of our social committee chaired by Ed Macklin in setting this outing and arranging for all-you-can-eat tickets. The Rangers won, had 2 home runs, and we had a great time, all while keeping the 4-way test in mind. We appreciate you coming today. Next week, we'll be looking forward to seeing you again when Congressman and fellow Rotarian Roger Williams will be our speaker. As a reminder, the Rotary Club Board is gathering immediately following today's meeting in the Rotary office. Have a great weekend. The meeting is adjourned.